Today we're talking about plants, kids, and the simplest way to dip your toes into herbalism as a family. Totally a different topic than we've covered on the podcast before, but I thought it was really important and a big part of actually going outside. So I chatted with Jackie. She's a mom of 5 who has slowly and naturally woven plant learning into her everyday life. She lives in a small island off the coast of Washington and has a deep passion for helping families feel more rooted and connected to Earth. In this episode, we talk about safely identifying plants, beginner-friendly herbs to grow at home, and easy ways to weave plant learning into everyday moments with your kids. So it's a gentle, practical conversation. It's perfect for anyone that's curious to learn more about herbalism and how to explore the world of plants as a family.
Welcome to Let's Go Outside, a podcast bringing moms together to chat about the raw, unfiltered reality of doing the exploring we love after having kids. No matter your comfort level of adventuring with the little ones, this is a space to have honest conversations about the real struggles of getting out the door with the kiddos. I'm Danica, a mama living in a small mountain town who's totally obsessed with healthy food and taking my kids outside every single day. I professionally guided backpacking trips in the Canadian Rockies, and I'm certified as a Leave No Trace instructor. On the show, you'll hear real experiences from other moms, plus tips on gear, trail snacks, and the best practices in the wilderness. Whether it's hiking, camping, backpacking, skiing, or traveling the world you want to do more of, this is your place to learn, find encouragement, and strip away any comparison. Come embrace both motherhood and the outdoors. Stick around. This is your place. Welcome to the Outdoor Mom Club. Welcome to the Let's Go Outside podcast. I'm so excited to have Jacqueline lead with us today. I got connected with her work through Run Wild My Child. She wrote an awesome article on there, and then I went to Instagram, and she just is such an incredible, inspiring mom and photographer, and so I'm excited to chat with her today about herbalism and plants and different things like that. So welcome here, Jacqueline.
Thank you. It's fun to be here.
Yes, good. Would you start by sharing more about yourself, who's in your family, and what kind of exploring do you like to do?
Sure. I actually have 5 kiddos. My 2 youngest are 3-year-old twins, and then I have a 7-year-old, a 19-year-old daughter, and a 20-year-old son. The 2 oldest are off at school. And I will say that over the years, this has been now it's like 20 years of mothering for me, that our adventures have definitely changed. Mm-hmm. When my oldest kids were like the age of my youngest kids now, we were in New Orleans, so there wasn't a lot of backyard play. If we went somewhere, it was actually like wetlands where there were alligators and big spiders and stuff like that. It wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but it was getting out there. Then we moved to Washington State, and there was so much more outside time there. That was like the childhood that I had. I felt like I was able to give to my 2 oldest kids once we moved here. They spent basically all day outside, and I will say that I'm like guilty of doing what my mother did to me, which is like shooing them out the door and then locking it and leaving snacks out intermittently for them. But yeah, they spent a lot of time outside, and we got into hiking more when we moved to Washington State. A lot more time in the woods that we couldn't have in Louisiana. Let's see. So hiking is a big thing. We've moved since Washington. We've actually lived with the oldest kids. We moved to Vermont and did a lot of winter hiking there, which is something I didn't think I would enjoy, but was amazing. And then we moved to Pennsylvania, and then down to Arizona, and then Washington State called us back home again. So here we are on Whidbey Island. It's like an island in the Puget Sound area in Washington State. And the littlest kids, they go on hikes with us now too, but the hikes are a lot slower than they were before. There's a lot more wandering and a lot less like definitive destination involved in our explorations.
Well, I went to Whidbey Island when I was about 14, and it seemed like a magical place, but that's so special to be by the ocean as well.
Yeah, it feels, well, then we went to Portugal just recently, moved back a couple of weeks ago, and The thing about Portugal is we did have the ocean there too, and there were mountains where we were living nearby as well. So that felt really, really kind of cozy and at home. But there's something about Whidbey Island that like just calls you back. And so yes, we are called back and trying to find flow here again. And yeah, it is a magical place.
That's really cool. So did you grow up in one of those places, and did you grow up outside exploring like your kids do?
I actually grew up in central Pennsylvania, which was like our little tiny stint in Pennsylvania when the kids were like 11 and 12. Yeah, but it was a lot of outside time. Like a lot of playing until it got really dark, playing capture the flag and just, going down to the creek. Your parents not really quite knowing where you are most of the time, but as long as you return, all is well in their world too. Yeah, I'm much more of a helicopter parent than what mine were. But yeah, lots of outside time.
Yeah, and I think it's also our culture has shifted a little bit more, and I feel like that's a common story that we'll hear of, back in the day, we all used to just run out and play and be out there for so long, and then we'd be back for bedtime or for dinner. So
yeah, for sure. And I think as like millennials, we're always trying to like get back there again somehow with our kids. We're like seeking that. So but we do the best we can with what we have. Here we are.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you more about herbalism and plants today, and I'm curious about where your journey started with that.
I think,
you'd like to share.
Sure. I think a lot of people, as little people, are really interested in the plant world, right? So we're outside and we're surrounded by them. And then as we get older, we just stop noticing. Like we are just so focused on our to-do lists and our tasks that we just don't see that side of the world anymore. We're certainly not listening to it. But as a kid, yeah, I remember like paying attention. I think just paying attention is what we do as children. We're like paying, maybe not, our parents don't always think we're paying attention, but we're definitely more tapped into the natural world, I think, as young kids. And that's the way it started with me too. Just being outside and amongst the plants all the time. Got interested in photography too when I was fairly young. I was a teenager then, and I remember like the first thing I was photographing, flowers in the garden, like those subjects that just kind of sit still and are easier to capture, and yeah, just paying attention. And then, during early adulthood, I kind of lost a lot of that. I still liked hiking, I liked being outside, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't looking at, just like really grossly looking around, but I wasn't like tuning into anything that was really happening really close around me on a regular basis. I lost a lot of that outside flow I think that kids just naturally have, and that if we let them teach us, that we can actually gain again with a lot of practice. But yeah, that's where it started, just being a kid. And then after having my two oldest and moving around a bit and coming to Washington, I think that being in a place that's just so green and alive all the time, it's really hard. Even if you're not paying attention, you're going to start noticing things. If you're outside, you're going to notice things. You're going to go on a hike, you're going to see the mushrooms, you're going to see like all of the green drippy things, the lichen, like everything, the lichen that look like monster fur, like growing on the tree trunks and the branches. And when you have kids too that you're hiking with, they're pointing things out to you, and you don't realize it at the time as it's happening, but they're really exercising those muscles for you again. They're like forcing you to work out. So yeah, I think having kids really helped too. So to bring me back a little bit into my own childhood and the art of noticing and just walking through the world at a different pace with a different goal, with different goals in general in mind. So yeah, coming back here, seeing the plants, being with my kids this time while experiencing things has kind of dumped me back into the world of plants again. And then being on Whidbey Island, I was really interested in some of the plants I was seeing over and over and over again. I was looking them up, and like stinging nettle is a great example. She is like growing all over the place. And if you don't notice her, she will make sure that you pay attention when you brush into her. And She reminds you where she is and what she's all about. So just seeing those things, identifying them with my kids, identifying them for my kids, and then for myself too, because it becomes an addiction to figure out like what is happening around you after a while. I started getting more interested in herbalism as like an actual practice, like the medicinal and the health quality of herbalism rather than just noticing the plants. And so I wanted to study it a little bit more. I won't say enthusiastically because I felt pretty enthusiastic already, but a little bit more just like with some structure. So I found an herbalism apprenticeship on the island and I joined that, not knowing entirely what to expect from all of this. So there were a lot of surprises along the way. But yeah, it was great. It wasn't just, so this apprenticeship that I joined, it was not just like, okay, this is the plant, these are its qualities, these are its constituents, this is what you can treat with it. Chamomile is used for this, calendula can be used for this. It was, okay, let's just go out in the garden and let's just breathe with this plant for a while. And anything that comes into mind, you go ahead and write that down and we'll share in circle then, like, what are your feelings? What is the plant trying to tell you? And it was like, oh my God, like this is what you do as a kid. You actually go out and you're like listening. Like that's not an object over there. That's an actual subject. I can have conversation. I can sit in conversation with this other being. And it's, just a reminder. I guess it's a reminder and kind of a coming home, right? Because you're going back to something that felt so natural and intuitive growing up. And then you just lost as an adult and you're tapping into it again. But that was a really amazing experience. And of course, we learned about the constituents of the plants and what they can do for us as plant allies too. But that energetic quality to it gave it such a depth that I wouldn't have experienced otherwise. And so, that was a very long drawn out way of saying, yes, as a child, I was interested in it. Yes, when I had children, I became interested in it again.
Yeah, okay. So for someone who is maybe totally hasn't heard the word herbalism before, would you say that kind of encapsulates it, or like would you want to break it down even more for someone who's maybe totally new to that?
Yeah, I think the very like straightforward, easiest definition, and what we are all kind of operating under when we hear the term herbalism is just the practice of using plants to maintain health or to treat illness. It's the you're doing something with the plants. You're keeping your family healthy. Someone has an abrasion or a bug bite. You're finding the perfect plant ally to treat that particular ailment. And that is pretty much herbalism in a nutshell, like the actual practice, the doing piece of it.
Good, that's a great definition. And would you share why you believe it's super valuable for kids to learn about plants and their place in the natural world? What have you seen?
Yeah, that one's so easy for me, right? Because like I said, we kind of get away from it when we're not children again. And wouldn't it be so nice if we didn't get away from it, for one? Like if we didn't have to come back home to it, if it could just be a piece of us that is always alive instead of needing to be woken up again. I just feel like when children are in the natural environment and they're in conversation with the natural world, so they're not like, looking at plants as their objects in their environment, they're actual subjects that they can sit in conversation with, that they become stewards for the earth, right? They're going to want to protect the environment because they see the value. And this isn't doing when you're not taking care of the environment, you're not doing something to objects, you're doing something to a unique entity like yourself. There's some more empathy, I think, that comes from sitting in conversation with the plants and with the natural world in general. Like taking your child and having a sit spot and having them choose a sit spot, and then they sit there and they learn to be in conversation with the natural world, I think is like really, really critical for the direction that our planet is taking right now.
And would you say that all your children have been drawn to plants, that you've seen that in all of them, or do you feel like there were some kids that you maybe had to cultivate and maybe draw interest out through gardening or doing different things with them?
Yeah, I think there's just with children in general, I think they're generally just drawn to new things in their environment, just naturally. But With my older kids, I think because we started it kind of later, my daughter, it was easier because she's kind of like witchy and interested in like all of that stuff and, you know, still wanting to see magic in the world. And then my oldest son, he's very skeptical and I'll believe it when I see it type of person. And so, you know, give him some facts and he's great with that. And the other piece isn't cultivated so much. Though, of course, like, all of the kids care about the earth and the direction that it's taking. But I do think that, yeah, once your kids get older, it just becomes a little bit trickier to cultivate that. Like, you want to jump on it when they're young. Not that it can't be cultivated, because that care is still there, whether they're skeptical like my oldest or like fully embracing the idea of talking and breathing with the plants, meditating with the plants, like my other older child. And then the young ones, we're not even, I mean, we just do things like we dig in the dirt. The little ones dig in the dirt. We speak about plants a certain way. So when they pull a plant, like, oh, that, I have, even as a preschool teacher, like if you see a child like stomping on the mint, you know, sometimes it's hard. You want them to have a relationship with nature, but you have to figure out, okay, how do we address this? Like, I don't know if that mint wants its head stomped on. Like, just kind of talking about the plants as though they're beings so that they start paying attention to how they're interacting with their environment too. They all have some kind of relationship with the natural world, whether it's just an appreciation, like my oldest will photograph every single sunset he ever comes across. He'll photograph it. Or like my youngest, that are like such sensory beings, right? 3-year-old in that toddler preschool age, they just like completely are embodied. They're living in the here and now and totally in tune with like what's going on around them and sensing everything. Like, they've got to smell it, they've got to touch it. Their hands have to be crunching everything. So yeah, they all appreciate nature differently according to their ages. And yeah.
That's good. So for parents who know that they want to interact more with plants and that living part of outside, do you have practical ideas, or maybe it doesn't come natural for them to be like, let's stop and look at the plants, or let's sit and see what's around us? Do you have any ideas for us to where to start?
Yeah, for sure. I think a great strategy is letting your child lead the way, especially if they're young. So as parents, we have a tendency, like if a young child asks a question, like, why is the sky blue? And then I'm going to go into a big conversation about, or a big explanation about what makes the sky blue, like scientific fact. We want to teach our children these things, but a different response, like, I wonder, why do you think the sky is blue? Is a response that kind of keeps curiosity alive. You'll notice, like, if you start going into a big explanation, like, why does this pine cone look like this? Why is this pine cone opened up like this? And if we start talking about, like, the environment, how it changes when it releases its seeds, they're going to, like, glaze over very, very quickly. But if you just like feed that curiosity, there's time for facts later. So letting children lead the way when they have a question or they show curiosity, feeding that curiosity. Even if you can't say anything, say, I wonder. Like, that's always a safe thing. That's always a safe strategy, right? And then just going on a walk, right? Because this stuff is around. The only difference between a weed and an herb is that a weed is growing somewhere where you don't want it to grow. Like, so many weeds are beneficial plants that are just growing in places where we didn't put them and we might not intend for them to grow. So if you walk around and just like open your eyes, you will see like really beneficial plants. Like dandelions are a great example because they have something called inulin in them, which is a great prebiotic, really good for your immune system and your gut health. And they're prolific. And they're also great, great first food for pollinators. So we love them. But yeah, there's opportunities everywhere, is basically what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. Things are growing everywhere. Most of them are beneficial. And if you start poking around, you'll start seeing like chickweed is everywhere. There's all kinds of salvias growing wild. Mints are prolific. They like to escape things if you try to plant them in one particular place. So you'll find wild mint growing everywhere too. Going for a walk, choosing a sit spot. It is really hard for adults to sit. I get that. Like, It is hard for me to sit and think, I really should be doing this, and not think, I really should be doing this other thing. When is this going to be over? Oh gosh, this is like so uncomfortable, especially now that I'm getting older too. Every spot feels uncomfortable when I sit down for any length of time. But just encouraging that stillness, I think that really cultivates the relationship with the natural world is a great place to start. If you are a doer, you need to be doing something. And a lot of adults that I know need to be doing something. Just get an herb, get a plant, and put it in the ground. Let your child choose the spot. Choose something hardy. Like a lot of Mediterranean herbs are really, really great because they can withstand really curious hands and missed waterings. So like rosemary, again, mint is really great because you can't kill her if you tried. Like she's just gonna go. Thyme, lavender, and these are all like really great sensory plants for tiny people too. They can smell it, they can feel the different textures, which even makes it more aromatic and fragrant whenever they're handling it. Getting their hands in the dirt, having them tend the plant. That is their job, to tend that plant. Your job, go find out, what does your plant need today? What does Rosemary need today? Go ask her what she's looking for. And just like encouraging those conversations, like these are people. This is like, grandmother Rosemary's in the garden. Go find out what she needs and give that to her. It's just a great place to start. Just start with one plant, one walk, one sit down.
I would say for my kids, they've been so interested in berries. And so we've really started with berries because there's quite a lot around here. And it's been super fun to let them lead with that and then teaching them about the different berry plants. And then they can identify them now when we walk. And I just love that, which has also led into, I think for my son's 4th birthday, I got him all plants that were edible, like as seeds, and then he got to plant them. And that was like, it was a 4-year-old boy, it's kind of, you're like, would a boy like this? But I got him a big shovel too.
Oh yeah, well then you made it. Super. Yeah, and super 4-year-old boy friendly.
Yeah, totally. We grew calendula from seeds, and then we infused it in oil and made salve. And now whenever they get scraped, we'll go get the calendula salve. And so that was like such a fun thing to do with them from start to now. And because before we even grew it, we had used calendula salve that we had bought. And so they kind of knew the end picture and the end goal, but then they got to go through the process. And it's so fun to be able to do that.
And those seeds are so magical too, aren't they? Like the little crescent moon shapes, so fun for like little fingers to handle. Yeah, and such a happy plant. I have some blooming in my garden right now. Like, oh wow. What? We're December 11th and she just reseeded herself and she's out there like reminding us that the sun is going to shine again in the Pacific Northwest at some point.
Wow.
Mamas, if you've been around here for a while, you know I have a soft spot for brands that help us get outside more often, even when life feels chaotic. Wildlore is one of those brands I've always admired. I'm super on board with their mission, empowering mamas to stay connected with nature in every season of motherhood. And when we're warm and comfortable, everything gets easier. Getting out the door, being present, and actually enjoying all the moments with our kids. Their All Phases fleece is smart and totally intentionally designed to be in your closet for years to come. It's made specifically for motherhood and designed to be fit before, during, and after pregnancy, nursing, and postpartum. The nursing access is subtle and genuinely life-changing for when you're feeding your baby mid-hike perched on a log, and the side zippers adapt to your growing belly. If you've been eyeing it, consider this your nudge. Wildlore is offering 15% off with the code Let's Go Outside 15. Check out the All Phases fleece and let it support you in getting outside and connecting with what matters most in every season. Wanted to take a second, especially if you're new here, and say hi. I'm Danica. I'm certified in holistic nutrition, a mom of 3, and I run a healthy snack blog where I share simple recipes for active families. Lately, I've been messaging my community about snacks, and the same themes keep coming up. You want more protein and less sugar. You're exhausted from figuring it out week after week on what snacks should be. Again and again, I heard, I want to prep once and feel set for the week. And honestly, that's exactly what I've been doing in my own house for the last couple of years. Every time I prep this way, the week feels so much better. Mornings are smoother, afternoons are calmer, and I'm not constantly trying to figure out what to feed everyone. So from that system, I created a 4-week ebook that walks you through snack prepping in 1 block per week with nutrient-dense, protein-forward recipes that your kids can eat any time of day, such as breakfast on the go, packed into lunch boxes, or as a pick-me-up in the afternoon. If snack time needs to feel easier and more nourishing, you'll find the Snack Prep Pro ebook linked in the show notes.
Is there any plants that you just love to use regularly or encounter regularly? Like, I don't know, like plantain comes to mind, or is there anything that you guys have around growing in the wild that you'll even just incorporate into day-to-day life?
Yeah, like I'm drinking nettle right now. Stinging nettle. Plantain, it's so funny you mentioned plantain because plantain usually grows near her because it treats the sting once you get it. Isn't that fun? Like how a lot of plants will grow next to each other that can be used like in conjunction. Oh, she like gave you a little bite, you noticed her again. Okay, well, sister is like right next door to help soothe that sting. So
I feel like that's such a good hack for hiking moms, like to look up, Google what plantain looks like and find a friend that can identify that for you, and then know that exists out there when you walk through stinging nettle, or if you get a bee sting, right?
Yeah.
To just kind of, do you like, I think usually I would like chew on it a little bit and then put it on the sting. Is that what you would do too?
Yeah, that's definitely the easiest. I mean, you've got your teeth with you all the time, so you use what tools you have available on, And it also, I feel like those like little tasks, like, oh, your child has a bee sting, show them where the plantain is, have them give it a little, these are like things that they have to do that also takes their mind off of like the thing that they're trying to treat in the first place. So yeah, so it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but yeah, it's good for, in fact, I think Grant, my oldest, like he did wilderness awareness here in the Pacific Northwest and came home and we were going on a hike and he's like foraging all the berries and he's like, this is salmon. He's like eating. I'm like, what are you eating? Because like, you know, you can't eat all berries. You can't eat them all. He's like, oh, it's salmon berry. Like, so he started like making us notice certain things. And that's when we got our like Pacific Northwest foraging guide and started tapping into the other things that are growing so much growing that can be foraged readily. And I should say that with a caveat of, you know, don't over forage anything. Because I think when we get interested in something, we can become a little overzealous, and that's when we're not, you know, this is reminding me of like braiding sweetgrass, and just only take what you need and leave for the wildlife and other people and other subjects in your environment that might stumble upon it and need it as well.
Totally. Yeah. I always like to say to my kids, like, you can pick that flower if you can look around and see a ton more flowers for other people to enjoy of that same variety.
Yeah.
And that if there's only one of it, we need to leave it so that everyone else can also enjoy this plant.
Isn't that so that's one thing that I've actually kind of struggled with as my kids were growing, the leave no trace. Like you really don't want to be like removing things from the natural environment, but you also want to be cultivating your child's relationship with that environment. And I just feel like growing up, okay, well, you know, kids like pop wild mint and wildflowers in their pockets and bring them home to like show their treasures. Or like I have a child, one of my 3-year-olds loves collecting rocks. She needs to have like a stone with her in her hand every time she gets into her car seat. We've gone to bed with, like, we're still bed sharing, but we've gone to bed with rocks, stones, like in our bed. That's a pretty common occurrence. And just balancing this leave no trace with, okay, but we want to really encourage their love for the natural world too. And some of that is collecting a rock every once in a while. Now, you don't like take all of the rocks, and you don't take all, like you said, you don't take all of the flowers. They need to reseed. Other people need to enjoy them. But finding some balance.
So if parents want to start identifying plants, do you have any resources or recommendations of resources?
Yeah. So one thing that I've used like extensively is picture this on my phone. Are you familiar with it? It's it's a plant identification app that does a pretty decent job. Now I will say that, you know, you never just depend on an app Or, talk to, if you really are unsure about something, you talk to a botanist. Like I would never use like the picture this app on a mushroom and then eat that mushroom. Like I would talk to someone, a mycologist or someone who has extensive foraging about whether this is a safe thing. Yeah, it's fun to look things up, but if you're going to consume, always be extra cautious. I think that with mushrooms, that's easy. Nobody's going around just like popping mushrooms into their mouth, but people will when they start foraging plants for some reason. Like they'll go around popping plants in their mouth. It doesn't transfer the same way, that knowledge. And so like here, there are some plants that are really noxious. We have wild hemlock growing on the island, like prolifically growing on the island, that looks so much like Queen Anne's lace or wild carrot, except it has like purple splotches on its stem and it grows significantly taller. But if you didn't know, like when I came here, I didn't know anything about poison hemlock, and I'm like, look at the beautiful wildflowers. I used to pick, it's Queen Anne's lace or Bishop's lace. I used to pick that as a child all the time without knowing, like, oh wait, this is a lookalike. And there are a lot of lookalikes in the plant world. So just being mindful of that, using your books, using your apps, but it should never replace like an actual expert's knowledge about something. So just being really certain before you consume anything.
Totally. I think going out with friends, like I have had different friends that are very knowledgeable about plants, and just passing that down has been such an invaluable experience for me, and realizing how much of plants you can eat too, though, like how many things of just, like you said, making stinging nettle tea or pineapple weed tea, or when you're out in the bush, like we find a lot of wild onions here.
Yeah.
And a lot of wild strawberries. And so just like you've said and repeated this whole time, like if we pay attention, if we go back to that time when we were children of noticing and looking around us, it's really incredible what is out there. And I think we have kind of lost that art or just that natural being of just interacting with the plants and seeing what's around us. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's amazing too. I feel like the plants have a little say in it as well. Like when we start noticing, then they're like, oh, okay, this person's in conversation with us again. And they start being like, they're making themselves be noticed more too. It's fun how like I'll think about something. I'm like, well, I haven't seen any lemon balm or anything for a while. And then I'll literally walk out my door and she's like growing right at the bottom step. Like, hey, I've been here. Like, they will talk back, essentially. They'll make sure that if you're interested and you're listening, then they have something to say.
Yeah, when you open your eyes, they come. That's awesome.
For sure.
What are some practical things that people could even take into practice this week to do with their families?
Yeah, well, so people are living all over, so they're going to have different things growing at different times. I still have, we're approaching Christmas, so I have rosemary growing in my garden. She's doing really, really well. I am in a really temperate region, so she'll grow like all winter and there will be no issue at all. But yeah, people are bringing greens into their house, right? The Christmas tree. Add some herbs, add some rosemary, like bringing it in for good luck or for whatever reason. Start like a new tradition as a family. Like this is a plant that at this time of year, we're really going to be in conversation with. Like we bring her in for this reason. It smells so good to have like herbal wreaths hanging on your door. So I feel like, even though we're in winter, bringing some green in can really be uplifting. So doing that, go to your your farmer's market, if you have one open during the winter time, or to the grocery store and get like an herbal tea and create some kind of ritual of drinking. Something Christmassy, maybe something with, a spice or something in it too. If you're feeling really down in the dumps. So I have calendula petals that I can brew as tea in the wintertime, which is really great and uplifting. It's like bottling up a little bit of the sun. And when it's so dark, when it's dark at like 3:30 in the afternoon, it's kind of nice to have some sun bottled up. So yeah, I would just say bring some of the outside inside if you're having a hard time, especially this time of year, getting out. bring something fragrant in, something uplifting. Bring rosemary or some other herb. Rosemary is kind of like, looks great with evergreens too. So it's the perfect plant ally for this time of year to bring in. Yeah, that's what I would do. Drink a tea, bring a plant inside, tend to something.
I think my kids would love that, of just even picking out a tea even at the grocery store and then looking up the plants that are in it. Like, I think they would find that really fascinating, like even in a book or just online, just like, this is how this grows, this is how this grows, and seeing the connection between like, oh, this is actually a plant that's dried that we are now drinking.
Yeah, and they've got like such great like children's teas too that have like adventurous flavors, like something that really turns red in the cup and is super berry tasting, or like a chocolate tea, something that can like help with picky palates as well, help introduce them to the plant world in a way, or just dump a whole bunch of honey in it. That also helps. But yeah, just anything warm and cozy, I think this time of year. Like tea is a good one. Starting your herbal adventures with a cup in front of the fireplace is a great place to start. It's still a great place to start.
Yeah, totally. Could you share any projects that you've loved to do with your kids related to herbalism?
Yeah, we have done like the calendula as well, but probably like Play-Doh is our favorite thing.
Oh, cool. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you can make, there are so many recipes on Pinterest for like no cook Play-Doh, so you don't have to worry about like it scorching little hands or anything. But just mixing up some homemade Play-Doh, it's usually just like salt, flour, cream of tartar for silkiness, and some kind of oil and water. And then you can put a fun food coloring in, which also could be like a natural dye food color, and then throw some dried herbs in there. Lavender is a favorite one for us because it's a nice thing to do before nap time, and bonus, like you're getting your kids ready for nap time by having them like handle the lavender and all of that. It's like aromatherapy, right? Aromatherapy play. So they're getting the sleepy benefits of having lavender, the lavender scent, and working with it. And every squeeze like releases more of that scent. So it's really great for parents too. Yeah, that's probably our favorite, Play-Doh, because that's the stage, like that's the age and stage that we're really in. They can mix something up with their hands. It's a little harder for them to measure something. Yeah. Anyways.
It's a good project. Anything else that you can think of that would be good for parents while they're thinking about incorporating plants and herbalism into their lifestyle? Anything else that comes to mind about that?
I think probably, other than just walking outside your door, starting like a little indoor herb garden is really fun for little people to see. Like you grew the calendula from seeds, seeing, just purchase a little herb garden and have them plant the seeds and just watch it slowly grow on your windowsill. And then they get the whole life cycle too. They're witnessing the whole life cycle. So, you get some learning in there as well. But that's probably this time of year, that's what I would focus on, like something like that, just to get started. Just let them grow something. Mm-hmm. And then like you have the added benefit of once it's actually growing, now we get to harvest some of it. I need this for my dinner tonight. Can you go ask for a little bit of this? Because we ask the plants. We're, at least in my household now, that we're viewing things more as subjects rather than objects in our environment. We're always asking, like, is it okay if I have a little bit of this right now? Asking the plant, and then just taking like just a moment. Maybe you'll hear yes, maybe you'll hear no, maybe you won't hear anything. But just always taking the time to be in conversation and ask for permission, and just, walking through the world a little bit differently.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. As we close out on the podcast, there's some questions that I always ask everyone that comes on. And the first one is, would you share a story of a favorite moment with your kids outside?
Yeah, I really loved, I think they really loved actually. And that made me really love it too. When we were in France a couple of years ago, and we went to the French Riviera, and it's just like seeing them just like jump in the waves, seeing the little ones in their cloth nappies just play in the sand. I mean, we have beaches here, right? We're on an island. We live on an island. But there is something different about being to a warm beach. Even in the fall, the sand is different. Being able to jump in the waves without it like turning you blue immediately is really a different thing. But then I think my personal favorite thing was accidentally locking my 7-year-old when he was about 4. and myself outside of the house. And so I was like out there doing some garden projects. I just put up my greenhouse and I wanted to do like a little pathway, a little brick pathway with some bricks I found like just shoved in a corner of the yard. And then when I realized we were locked out, we were just out there for hours and hours and hours with, just not really a plan after doing the little chores. So just being out there and just us both like laying in the grass and just remembering what it's like to just lay in the grass. Mm-hmm. How freaking relaxing is it just to stop everything and to not have anything to do because there's nothing you can do when you're locked out, and just to like lay there and just be just be. We don't get to do that very often as adults. So that's probably my personal best moment was an accident. Mm-hmm. But it's like there are no accidents, there are no like mistakes, just happy accidents sort of thing. So yeah, it was a good experience.
It's such a good life lesson to carry with you, and now you still remember that years later and just carry that with you to remember like, wow, when I actually am like not able to do anything else, I can fully submit to just being still and laying in the grass here.
Yeah, that's what it takes, right? It takes your hands being tied, I think, as a mother especially. Like, we're always thinking, what do we need to tend to? Who do we need to tend to? What is next? Always what is next, like even as we're doing the initial thing. But yeah, to be forced to just release control is really magical. So I encourage everyone to accidentally lock themselves out in their backyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. That's so good. Okay, next question is, what is one unique tip you have for moms who want to explore more? And maybe for this one, you could do it in relation to plants, who want to explore plants more or experience that more. Yeah,
it's not really a unique tip, but just really get outside. Even if it's just your front yard, your backyard, somewhere. I find that for me, and I've talked to a lot of other mothers who I think feel similar, that mothering comes easier outside. When the kids are running around and jumping off the furniture and screaming, as mine have a tendency to do. That is kind of like their homeostasis. Getting outside is just like everyone can exhale. Getting outside is just like you realize that you hadn't been breathing and that you've been tense like all morning until you walk outside, and everyone, like the kids, move like with purpose that they didn't move with before. It was like when your dogs have the zoomies. I feel like my twins get the zoomies all the time. And just getting outside, that would be like my number one tip, is just mothering is easier outside. Mothering is also easier with other mothers. So if you can get like other mothers together and build your own village, for sure, that would be the way to go.
Such a good reminder. So good. Yes, this morning I went Christmas tree hunting with my two boys, and they were just like with purpose out there, just excited, and versus kind of little quarrels in the living room. But that's such a good, always such a good reminder, right? With purpose outside.
Yeah, with purpose. Even if there's no purpose, right? They still move with some rhythm. I guess maybe rhythm is the word too. Mm-hmm. It's not like just random energy that's exploding all over the place, whether you want it to or not. It becomes funneled.
Totally. It's much less of them having that conversation of like, what should I do now? I'm kind of bored, or like, what am I supposed to be up to? Like, there is intention.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah. Jacqueline, thank you so much for coming on. Could you share with us where we can follow along and what's going on and what offerings you have these days? It was just awesome to get to know you and learn about these different plants and just your love for the environment and the world. That's really evident. So thank you.
Sure. On Instagram, my handle is @raising_little_naturalist. And that's, though I have lots of Instagram accounts, that's the one that you'll actually find me at. I am a photographer at Wildkin Wandering, and I have a website for mothers. It's kind of new, so we're still building it out, but it's Earthwise Mothering. And at that website, it's like a mini homeschool curriculum called Root to Crown. So it's earthwisemothering.com /root-to-crown. And that's a parenting guide that looks at parenting children like energetically as well. So it's looking at the chakra system and developmentally how that corresponds to developmental phrases, and how we might change the way we parent based off of like how our child's reacting, what chakra they might be kind of honed in on at that moment during development. And then of course it's a lot of healing for mamas too, because I don't know about you, but I have a lot of evolving that I have yet to do, and it's constantly like my children are teachers. So yeah, so that's where you can find me, all those places.
That's awesome. That's so wonderful, Jacqueline. We will put those in the show notes and put that together. So thank you so much for sharing from your heart today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
If you enjoyed this episode, would you please take a moment to leave a rating and a review? It honestly really helps the podcast grow to more people so that they can find it. And it's a free way that you can love on me. It honestly means more than you know. And I would just be so grateful if you could take a moment to do this so that more outdoor mothers could find the podcast. Don't forget, everything that we mentioned is in the show notes, from gear recommendations to trail recommendations to where to travel. So check that out, and we will be chatting so soon. We drop an episode every first and third Tuesday of the month.